My child, stop. Be still for a moment and listen, for heaven itself has paused to speak your name. You've walked through fire, through silence, through battles no one else could see, and now the heavens are thundering with one truth. You finally did it. Heaven saw everything. This is not just a message, it is a divine announcement, a holy unveiling of what hath been happening behind the veil of your pain. The unseen has witnessed your endurance, and now I speak so you will understand just how much your quiet faith has shaken eternity. Listen carefully. This is your moment of revelation. Before you ever took your first trembling step toward change, I saw it, the quiet stirring within your heart, that small decision to rise again. You didn't speak it aloud, but I heard it. It was a whisper not of lips, but of spirit. You thought no one noticed when you said to yourself, maybe I can try one more time. But heaven heard that whisper before you even formed the thought. Every movement of your heart sends a sound through eternity, and the moment you turned your heart back toward hope, all of heaven leaned closer. You must understand this. Faith never begins with a shout. It begins with a whisper, one that moves unseen through the corridors of heaven and reaches my throne. You see, my beloved, I am never far from your smallest beginnings. The world looks for great deeds, but I watch for small shifts of faith. When the desire to believe again flickered inside you, when the flame of your hope, though faint, refused to die, that was the moment I called your name again. The angels heard me speak it. They turned their faces toward you, because that single whisper, born in the quiet of your surrender, carried more weight in heaven than the loudest declarations of men. You thought you were simply surviving, trying to make it through another day, but what I saw was faith, raw and honest, trembling faith, rising from the ashes of disappointment. I want you to understand how sacred that moment was. Heaven does not measure success the way the earth does. The whisper of a heart turning toward me is worth more than 1,000 public victories. When you thought you were unseen, your heart was being broadcast through eternity. I watched the angels pause their songs, for they heard what I heard, the sound of faith awakening again. It was not perfect. It was not strong. But it was real. And that is what I treasure most. I never required perfection from you. I asked for presence, that you would be still enough to whisper again. So do not despise the whisper. That is where all miracles begin. When you dared to hope once more, you called heaven into motion. The unseen shifted. Grace began to align around you. I saw the battles that had silenced your voice for so long, and I saw the courage it took for you to whisper again. My child, that whisper moved mountains. You may not have seen them crumble yet, but heaven did. The moment you said in your heart, I will try again, my power began to move. You may not feel worthy, but your whisper was enough. And I say to you now, that whisper in heaven has become a decree. Do you remember that moment when you almost let go, when your strength had vanished and your heart whispered, maybe I can't do this anymore? I was there. I felt the tremor of that thought before it even reached your lips. The darkness pressed in close, trying to convince you that it had already won, but something within you refused to die. You reached for me again, not because you were strong, but because you couldn't bear to live without hope. And when you did, when you chose to try again, though everything in you felt broken, the atmosphere around you shifted. I saw the heaviness begin to lift from your spirit, like the first light piercing through a stormy dawn. The angels who had watched in silence suddenly stirred, for they knew what that moment meant. You had made the most powerful decision of all, not to quit. You didn't know it then, but heaven called that day holy. It wasn't the day of your victory, it was the day of your decision. And in that decision my strength entered where yours ended, You see, it was never about how far you could go alone. It was about how willing you were to trust me again after disappointment. Every time you took a breath and whispered, "I'll try again, Lord," eternity recorded it. The stars themselves bore witness. I watched you take small steps, fragile ones, and though you thought they barely mattered, they thundered across the heavens like a war cry. Because trying again in faith, even after failure, is warfare against despair. That is what makes you victorious, not the absence of struggle, but the refusal to surrender your faith. I didn't ask you to be fearless. I asked you to be faithful. And you were. So, when you rose again, even trembling, even doubting, all of heaven rejoiced. And with the moment the story began to turn. You never knew how many times I caught your tears before they touched the ground. Each one carrying meaning. Not one was wasted. You thought you were crying alone, hidden in the dark corners of your room. But your tears spoke to me in a language older than words. They carried the weight of your longing, your confusion, your grief. I understood every unspoken word behind them. The world sees tears as weakness, but I see them as prayers. They are the evidence of a heart still alive, a heart that still believes something good can come from the pain. Every tear you shed was gathered, held, and remembered. You may have forgotten how many nights you wept, but heaven hasn't. Each one became a seed in my hands, a promise that I would not let your sorrow go unanswered. There were times you said, "I can't cry anymore," and even that exhaustion reached me. I saw the ache that no one else saw, the moments when you smiled to hide your breaking. But I tell you this truth, not a single drop of your pain has been overlooked. I have woven your tears into the fabric of redemption itself. In time, what caused those tears will become the ground from which joy grows. You cannot yet see it, but there will come a day when you look back and understand that I counted them not for record, but for restoration. Each tear told me they are still fighting to believe. And for that faith, even in sorrow, I have prepared a joy no storm can erase. So do not despise your tears, beloved. They are holy water to me, evidence that your spirit still reaches for light in the midst of shadows. And every time you wept, heaven saw, and heaven remembered. Ah, those silent days, when it felt as though I had vanished, when prayer seemed to bounce back like an echo off an empty sky. You wondered if I still heard you, if I still cared, if your faith was failing. But my child, silence is not absence. I was nearer to you in those quiet stretches than you ever imagined. You measured my love by the sound of my response, but I was measuring your strength by your willingness to trust me without one. There were days when heaven seemed still because I was teaching you how to hear me differently, not in thunder or miracle, but in breath, in stillness, in endurance. You cried out, and when no answer came, you thought I was ignoring you. But I was not silent out of neglect. I was silent because I was working. My silence is never empty. It is a sign that something sacred is being formed beneath the surface. During those silent days, you were being transformed. I was refining your hearing so that you would no longer mistake noise for presence. I was deepening your roots so that your faith would no longer depend on visible proof. I saw every morning when you got up to face another day without seeing results, and I called those mornings victories. You did not know it, but you were growing. I hid myself not to punish you, but to strengthen you. And now, when you look back, you'll realize those silent days were the days heaven was the loudest on your behalf. For even in the silence, I never stopped speaking through the quiet persistence of your heart. You thought I was gone, but I was closer than your breath. The silence was sacred. It was the sound of my hand shaping your destiny. I saw you when no one else did, when your war wasn't visible to the world, when the smile you wore was armor for the battlefield no one knew existed. You fought not against flesh and blood, but against the voices in your mind that whispered failure, fear, and shame. Every thought you conquered, every temptation you resisted, every night you wrestled with doubt. I saw it all. While others saw you functioning, I saw you fighting. And though you thought you were losing, heaven saw you standing. There were moments you wanted to collapse beneath the weight of unseen wars, but you chose to rise, again and again, even when you felt you had nothing left to give. My child, those are the moments that shape eternity, when you keep believing in light though surrounded by darkness. Every hidden battle you fought became a testimony written in heaven's chronicles. You didn't need a crowd to witness it, for I was your audience. You didn't need applause, for the angels were already singing your name in victory. The enemy tried to make you think the silence meant defeat, but I tell you, it meant promotion. For every unseen battle is the proving ground of kings and queens in my kingdom. I have always seen you, every tear fought back, every prayer whispered through trembling lips, every time you resisted the easy path of surrender. Those unseen battles build a strength no comfort could have ever produced. So, do not despise the wars no one saw, for they are the ones that made you mighty. You were never fighting alone. I was the strength beneath your breath, the power in your endurance, the calm in your chaos. Every hidden battle was holy, and though the world may never understand the depth of your scars, heaven calls them the marks of victory. I remember the nights you carried burdens too heavy for one soul. You hid the pain because you thought no one would understand, and perhaps they wouldn't. But I did. Every sigh that escaped you was a prayer, every unspoken ache was heard as clearly as a cry. You thought you were walking through the valley alone, but I was there, matching my steps to yours, feeling the tremor in your spirit. The weight you carried was not a punishment, it was preparation. I was training your heart to carry compassion, to see beyond yourself, to love deeper than before. You thought you were breaking, but you were expanding. Every time you whispered, "I can't keep doing this," I whispered back, "You're not doing it alone." Even when you couldn't feel me, I was beneath the load, holding it with you. You wondered why I didn't just take it away, but I knew what you could not yet see, that through the heaviness, you were discovering my strength. There is a glory that can only be born through pressure, and you were walking in that holy process. The weight you carried shaped your soul into a vessel of endurance and grace. When others look at you and wonder how you survived, tell them the truth. You didn't. We did. I carried you when your own strength was gone. And now, the same weight that once threatened to crush you has become your testimony, proof that even the heaviest seasons can birth divine strength. What felt unbearable was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal me in you. Do you remember that moment when you finally stopped trying to hold it all together, when exhaustion met humility, and you whispered, "I can't do this anymore"? That was not your failure. That was your turning point. Surrender is not defeat. It is the place where you finally make room for me. You had spent so long fighting, striving, and carrying what was never yours to bear. But when your strength ended, my grace began. Heaven does not celebrate the strong who never bend. Heaven celebrates the humble who finally let go. I was waiting for that moment, not because I wanted to see you struggle, but because I wanted you to discover the peace hidden in release. The very moment you let go, heaven exhaled with you. The tension that ruled your spirit began to loosen its grip, and light entered where fear once lived. You thought surrender meant giving up, but I tell you, it meant stepping into divine alignment. That "I can't" you whispered became the opening for my will. When you laid it all down, your plans, your expectations, your need to control, you finally stepped into the rhythm of my rest. From that moment, I began to rebuild what your effort could never create. You found me not in the climb, but in the collapse. And as you surrendered, the heavens declared, "Now the work can truly begin." Surrender, my child, is where your story turns, from striving to soaring, from burden to blessing. That with a moment heaven began to move in ways you could not yet see. It wasn't the grand gesture that caught heaven's eye. It was that small act of faith you thought meant nothing. I saw it. I saw when you reached out in kindness though your own heart was aching, when you prayed even when your words felt hollow, when you chose forgiveness while anger begged for its turn. Those small acts, quiet and uncelebrated, carried a power you could never measure. Every time you moved in faith, no matter how faint, the unseen realm shifted. You think mountains only move through thunderous miracles, but they also move through simple obedience, the kind that whispers, "I'll trust again today." The world rarely notices such things, but heaven does. That cup of cold water you offered, that gentle word spoken in love, that choice to hope again after heartbreak, these are the stones that build eternity. I've seen you serve without recognition, give without applause, and believe without proof. That is what moves my heart. For faith, in its truest form, is rarely loud. It is quiet courage wrapped in consistency. You thought no one saw your efforts, but heaven's light recorded them. The mountains that stood before you began to tremble the moment you acted in faith, no matter how small it seemed. Every humble decision aligned creation with my will, and every quiet yes released the strength of angels. So don't ever underestimate your smallest obedience. I do not measure worth by size but by sincerity. What you call small, I call sacred. What you call simple, I call supernatural. The mountains have already begun to shift, not because of grand displays, but because you believed enough to act when it would have been easier to quit. Heaven saw that, and heaven moved. There was a night, you remember it, when the world around you was dark and your heart even darker. You whispered words that barely found form, and tears became the only language you had left. You thought your prayer was weak, unheard, forgotten before it reached the sky. But that night, heaven was silent for a reason. We were listening. The angels gathered, surrounding the space where you knelt, because the sound of a breaking heart that still dares to pray is sacred music in heaven's ears. I watched you lift your voice through exhaustion, through fear, through pain that words could not contain. You didn't pray perfectly, you prayed honestly. That's what moved me. While you wept, I was writing. While you doubted, I was answering. While you waited, I was weaving together miracles unseen. The darkness around you tried to convince you that your prayer vanished into emptiness, but it rose like incense before my throne, pure, fragrant, eternal. I want you to know that every word you spoke that night became a decree in heaven's court. Angels were dispatched, not because of eloquence, but because of endurance. I didn't need your strength. I needed your surrender. You thought you prayed alone, but all of heaven stood witness. I saw how you refused to let the silence silence you, how you kept praying when hope seemed gone. That moment was not wasted. It was a holy collision. Your weakness met my power. And though you did not see it then, heaven saw everything. Your prayer still echoes in eternity, and its answer is already unfolding. Every day you wake up, you stand at a crossroads. The world calls to you with its noise. Fear demands your attention. Comfort tempts you to turn away. Yet still, again and again, you choose me. That choice may seem simple, but it is the most powerful act in the universe. You choose me when you forgive instead of hate. You choose me when you trust though you cannot see. You choose me when you lay down your pride to love someone unworthy. Each choice echoes beyond time itself, because love chosen freely is heaven's language. I have watched you struggle with doubt, with weariness, with the pull of old wounds, yet still you choose me. Sometimes with tears in your eyes, sometimes through gritted teeth, but always with sincerity. That is what makes your faith beautiful. You may think you have failed too many times, but I see the pattern. You always come back. That is what matters most. Choosing me is not about never falling. It's about refusing to stay down when you do. Every time you choose to believe in my goodness over your pain, you rewrite your story. Every time you choose grace over bitterness, light wins again. The world may never applaud these moments, but heaven does. You are building a legacy not with grand achievements, but with quiet, consistent choices that declare, I belong to you, Lord. And joy shakes the foundations of darkness. It reminds every power that once sought to claim you that you are mine, fully, eternally, unshakably mine. And every time you choose me, I choose you anew, wrapping you in a love that cannot fail. You called it breaking, but I called it becoming. Every moment you felt yourself shatter, every time you said, I can't take any more, I was reshaping the fragments into something sacred. You saw the ruins of what was, but I saw the foundation of what could be. When everything you leaned on fell apart, I was not absent. I was the one shaking what could not stay so that what is eternal could remain. You begged me to stop the breaking, not knowing it was the only way to make room for what was greater. You see, brokenness in my hands is never destruction. It is divine construction. I do not break you to punish you. I break the walls that keep you from wholeness. You thought you lost everything, but what you really lost was everything that was never meant to stay. I was stripping away what hindered your destiny. The breaking was not to destroy your identity, it was to reveal it. Like a seed that must crack before it can grow, your breaking released the life that was hidden within you. Every tear watered the ground of transformation. Every disappointment loosened your grip on false security. And when you thought it was over, I was only beginning. I know it hurt. I know the pain felt endless. But even in your despair, I was near, gathering the pieces, molding them into strength, purpose, and clarity. You see the cracks, but I see the light pouring through them. You were not breaking apart. You were breaking open. The version of you that is emerging now is stronger, wiser, softer, and more radiant than before. And one day, when you look back, you will say, that was not the end of me. I was the making of me. The fire scared you. You thought it meant punishment, when all along it was purification. I did not send the flames to burn you, but to reveal the gold within you. You prayed for strength, and I sent refining fire. You asked for clarity, and I burned away the illusions. You wanted to walk in purpose, so I allowed the heat that separated truth from pretense. I know it was hard, when everything familiar melted and you felt stripped of all that once defined you. But the fire was never your enemy. It was your ally. Every trial that came against you carried the heat of transformation. You saw the flames and feared destruction, but I saw the same fire and declared, they will come forth as pure gold. The impurities of fear, pride, and doubt cannot survive the refining process. You wondered why it felt so intense, so personal, so relentless. It was because the treasure within you was valuable. I only refine what I intend to elevate. And as you walked through the fire, you didn't notice, but I walked with you. I was in the flames, shielding you from what would have destroyed you. The fire did not consume you. It consumed what was never meant to define you. Now look, your spirit shines clearer, your faith burns brighter, your heart beats truer. The fire that once terrified you became the light that now guides others. You are no longer fragile. You are refined. You carry the glow of one who has survived a divine fire and found beauty on the other side. Patience was your hardest lesson. Waiting felt like punishment, silence like rejection, and delay like abandonment. Yet all along, I was working in what you could not see. Every moment of waiting was building endurance within you, shaping your capacity to carry what I was preparing. You wanted answers, but I was forming wisdom. You wanted results, but I was forming roots. I never waste waiting seasons. They are holy classrooms where strength is born. I watched you grow restless. I heard your cries for timing to change. And yet I whispered, wait. Not because I enjoyed your ache, but because I loved your destiny too much to rush it. If I had given you what you asked for too soon, it would have crushed you. Patience protected you when you did not understand. While you waited, I was aligning pieces, preparing people, and healing wounds that time alone could not reach. You thought nothing was happening, but the unseen world was alive with movement on your behalf. Patience became the soil where your faith matured, quiet, unseen, but deeply alive. You began to learn that delay is not denial, that slowness is not indifference, that timing is a language of love. And now, because you endured, you carry a steadiness few ever find. You trust deeper and love purer, hope stronger. The reward of patience is not only what you receive, but who you become in the process. You are no longer the same. You are anchored, rooted, ready. The wait did not waste you. It prepared you. And now heaven whispers, it's time. Heaven erupted in celebration the moment you forgave. Yes, that moment when you released the pain you swore you'd never let go of. You thought it was small, unseen, perhaps even meaningless, but in the unseen realm it sounded like thunder. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is warfare. When you chose to let go of what wounded you, the chains that had bound generations broke. I saw the moment your heart softened, the instant you whispered, I released them. The heavens heard that declaration and rejoiced, for forgiveness is the language of heaven itself. You didn't just set another free, you set yourself free. The bitterness that had grown roots began to wither, and love, my love, started flowing through the cracks of your heart once more. You may not have realized it, but that act shook darkness off your life. It disarmed the very forces that tried to keep you trapped in the cycle of hurt. Forgiveness is power cloaked in humility. It mirrors my own nature within you. I know it hurt. I know what they did seemed unforgivable. Yet when you let go, you allowed me to step in. And at that moment, heaven's music changed. Songs of joy rose because another heart had chosen grace over vengeance. Angels danced, not because a wrong was undone, but because mercy triumphed in a heart that had every reason to grow cold. I tell you the truth. The moment you forgave was the moment you most resembled me. The world may never know the cost of that decision, but I do. Heaven saw everything, and heaven rejoiced, because love had won again. There were days you thought you were weak, days when you whispered, I can't do this anymore, and yet you kept going. That strength you thought you lacked was not yours alone. It was mine flowing through you. I was your endurance in the storm, your quiet breath when anxiety tried to choke you, your hidden courage when fear pressed heavy on your chest. You didn't see it, but every morning you rose again, every task you faced when your soul wanted rest, those moments revealed the power within you. True strength is not the absence of weariness. It is the choice to stand despite it. The world measures strength by how loud it is, but heaven measures it by how faithful you remain when no one's watching. I saw you pushing forward, not for glory, not for applause, but simply because you refused to let darkness define you. It is strength, divine, holy, unshakable strength. It was born in your pain, refined in your waiting, and perfected in your surrender. The strength you carried did not roar, it whispered. And that whisper was powerful enough to silence storms. Now look back, can you see it? Every trial that tried to destroy you became the very thing that revealed how much of me lives within you. You are not fragile. You are forged. You are not barely surviving. You are becoming a testament to grace under fire. You never walked in your own might. You walked in mine. And that is why you are still standing, stronger than you've ever been. Fear had its claws deep in your heart once, didn't it? It whispered lies that sounded like truth, that you were unworthy, unlovable, unsafe. It told you to guard yourself, to withdraw, to build walls instead of bridges. But then came that quiet, defiant moment when you chose love anyway. You opened your heart again, even after betrayal. You spoke kindness into places that had only given you pain. That was the day heaven stood still, because love, when chosen in the face of fear, is the highest form of faith. You didn't know it then, but every time you loved when it was easier to retreat, light flooded the darkness. Love is fearless not because it doesn't feel pain, but because it believes pain cannot have the final word. I saw the trembling in your hands, the hesitation in your heart, but I also saw the spark of courage that pushed through it all. You love anyway. That is power the enemy cannot imitate. You disarmed fear that day. You broke the cycle that had chased generations before you. Because love, real, unconditional love, is stronger than fear, stronger than trauma, stronger than every wall that has ever tried to stand between you and your purpose. When you chose love, you aligned yourself with the heartbeat of heaven itself. Fear lost its authority that day. So now, when it tries to creep back in, remember this: it already lost. You proved that love still reigns, not because you were unafraid, but because you believed I was greater than the fear. And heaven saw it. Heaven will never forget it. You never walked alone. Not once. Even when your room felt empty, when silence pressed so heavily against your chest that you thought you would break, there were footsteps beside you that you could not hear. I sent them, my messengers, my unseen ones, to walk with you through the shadows you thought would consume you. You didn't know it, but the atmosphere shifted every time you prayed. Angels stood guard at the edge of your despair, warding off what you could not fight yourself. You felt sudden peace for no reason, a moment of calm amid chaos. That was them. I signed them to your path not because you were weak, but because you were chosen. The weight of your calling drew heaven's protection. When danger crept close, their wings surrounded you. When your mind grew heavy, they whispered courage. You wondered how you made it through the nights you thought you wouldn't survive. You didn't. We carried you. You felt small coincidences, the call that came at the right time, the door that opened unexpectedly. None of it was by chance. My angels move at the speed of obedience to your faith. They've watched over you with fierce tenderness, for they have seen what I placed inside you. You will never know how many battles they fought on your behalf, how many times death itself had to step back because heaven stood in the way. You are surrounded, always. Every step you take is shielded by grace you cannot see. So when fear whispers that you are alone, remember this: my messengers still walk beside you, carrying light into every shadow that dares to approach. You think no one noticed, don't you? You think your quiet faithfulness went unseen. The late nights you prayed for others, the sacrifices you made in silence, the good you did when there was no one to thank you. But heaven noticed. You see, there's an applause not made of hands but of light, a sound that ripples through eternity every time one of my children chooses righteousness over recognition. When you showed up even when you were weary, when you served without acknowledgement, when you loved without receiving love in return, all of heaven stood in awe. You may not hear the sound now, but there are angels who still speak of your steadfastness. In the unseen realm, faithfulness is louder than fame. Every act of goodness you perform in secret became a seed that burst into brilliance in my kingdom. You thought no one cared when you gave from your lack, but heaven recorded it. You thought your tears of obedience went unnoticed, but they were gathered in crystal bowls before my throne. The world forgets, but heaven remembers. And one day, you will hear the sound, the roar of applause that has been waiting for you since the first day you chose to do right when wrong would have been easier. You do not live unseen, my beloved. The stage you walk is sacred, the audience eternal. The unseen applause of heaven still echoes, celebrating every hidden yes you've ever given me. Do you remember the prayers you thought died in the ground? The dreams you buried, the hopes you released because waiting became too painful. They were never forgotten. They were seeds, and seeds don't die in the soil. They transform. I watched you plant in faith and water with tears, even when the ground looked barren. Every act of obedience, every moment of surrender, every silent prayer became nourishment for what was hidden beneath the surface. You couldn't see it growing, but it was. The dark seasons weren't punishment. They were preparation. The soil had to break open before life could emerge. And now, the season has shifted. What you once buried in surrender is beginning to rise. The seed has finally sprouted. You may not recognize it at first, because my blessings rarely come in the form you expect. But look closely. The very ground you once called dead is now pulsing with promise. Every delay was a divine incubation. Every silence was a sign that roots were being strengthened for longevity. You see, I do not rush growth, I perfect it. The fruit that comes from patient faith lasts longer than anything manufactured by haste. So now, as the first shoots of your prayers break through the soil of impossibility, know this: the waiting was worth it. The tears were not wasted. Heaven saw every moment you tended your faith when nothing seemed alive. And now, heaven rejoices with you, for the seed you thought lost was never lost at all. It was just waiting for my timing to bloom. Can you feel it now, the shift, the quiet warmth that seems to follow you even in the midst of uncertainty? That is not coincidence. It is light. My light. It surrounds you because you no longer live in the shadows you once fought through. You have become a dwelling place for my glory, even when you don't realize it. Every time you chose to keep believing, every time you refused to return to despair, that light grew stronger around you. You thought it was only survival, but it was transformation. The darkness that once terrified you now flees at your presence, because the light within you burns too brightly for it to linger. I wrapped you in radiance, not as a reward, but as a reflection of who you have become through faith. My light is not just around you. It moves through you. You carry hope into places others have abandoned. You carry peace into storms that once silenced you. You no longer chase light. You emit it. Every scar that once brought shame now glows with testimony, and the angels see it when you walk. They recognize you as one who carries the fire of heaven. This is what happens when faith endures. The light of my presence becomes inseparable from your being. You are luminous now, beloved, not because everything is perfect, but because grace has written your story in radiance. The shadows may still whisper, but they can no longer claim you. You belong to light, and light belongs to you. This is your season of unveiling, the moment when what was hidden in the dark now comes into the open by my design. I have seen the long nights you labored unseen, the prayers that felt unanswered, the obedience that cost you much. You did not seek applause, and that is why heaven now releases recognition. This isn't the shallow approval of man. It is the holy acknowledgement of heaven declaring, "It's time." I am bringing into view what was built in obscurity. Every quiet act of faith, every seed of sacrifice, every moment you kept walking when no one was watching, it all prepared you for this divine unveiling. The season you are entering is not about fame, but fulfillment. It's about alignment. What I spoke over you long ago now catching up with time itself. The very doors that once rejected you will open, not because of effort, but because my favor has found its appointed moment. Recognition in my kingdom isn't about being noticed. It's about being positioned. I am positioning you now. Light of my favor will highlight what I've already finished in you. Do not shrink from this moment. It is not pride to stand where I've placed you. The season of divine recognition is not reward. It is revelation. Heaven saw what man ignored, and now I am revealing what heaven always knew, that your faith was real, your heart was pure, and your endurance was holy. Step into it, for heaven has already announced your name. Do you know what it means when heaven speaks your name? It's not just sound, it's summoning. When I spoke your name before the hosts of heaven, every power, every angel, every element of creation heard it and remembered who you are. You didn't hear it, but your spirit did. That's why everything around you began to shift without explanation. You thought the change was coincidence, but it was alignment responding to your name being released from my throne. I spoke it not in judgment, but in joy. It was a declaration that the waiting is over, that destiny has reached maturity. When heaven calls your name, it isn't just acknowledgement, it's authorization. You have divine clearance now to move in things that once resisted you. What was locked is unlocking because your identity has been proclaimed in heaven's court. You are not forgotten. You are chosen, commissioned, and called forth. Your name, spoken in love, carries authority. It is written in light, sealed in grace, and carried by the breath of the Spirit. You have walked through seasons where your name was misunderstood, misused, or ignored, but now it is being restored to its rightful meaning. Every syllable of your name carries purpose. Every letter echoes destiny. I spoke it so creation would remember to serve you, so doors would recognize you when you knock, so favor would find you without struggle. When heaven speaks a name, everything changes. And I have spoken yours, not as a whisper of possibility, but as a decree of fulfillment. You are known, you are remembered, and you are marked for glory. Every act of obedience sends a sound through eternity. You may think your yes was small, your sacrifice insignificant, but in the unseen realm it resounded like thunder. I heard it the moment you chose to obey, even when you didn't understand why. You thought it was just another quiet step, another unseen act of faith, but heaven called it a declaration of loyalty. Obedience is not about rule-keeping, it's about resonance. Every time you obeyed when fear said no, you struck a chord that still vibrates in the atmosphere around you. You obeyed when it cost you comfort, when it meant walking away from what once defined you, when it meant trusting me with outcomes you couldn't control, and I recorded every moment. That obedience became an echo that continues to ripple through generations. You don't yet see how far it travels, but your decisions in the secret place are shaping destinies you will never meet. There are lives that will be healed, prayers that will be answered, and hearts that will be softened because you said yes when you could have said no. You thought obedience was about following instructions, but it was really about releasing my will into the earth. You are the echo of heaven's heartbeat, steady, faithful, enduring. Even now, the sound of your faith still moves through time, touching places your feet have never walked. Remember this: obedience always multiplies. It may feel costly, but what it births will outlive you. Your yes became heaven's sound, a melody of trust, courage, and surrender that will never fade. Every unseen moment of faithfulness is written, not on paper, but on eternity itself. You've wondered if your prayers vanished, if your efforts dissolved into silence, but they didn't. They were recorded in the archives of heaven, written in light. Every time you chose to believe without seeing, I inscribed it. Every whispered prayer, every hidden act of love, every quiet refusal to quit, they were all documented as testimony. You live in a world obsessed with what is seen, but my kingdom records what is unseen. The world counts achievements, I count faith. I saw when you praised me while bleeding, when you trusted while trembling, when you loved when it hurt. These moments became sacred ink in the story heaven tells about you. You thought no one noticed your perseverance, but angels watched and took note. They've written your name beside words like steadfast, faithful, enduring. Even now, your record speaks louder than your doubts. The heavenly books do not record your failures. They record your faith in the midst of them. Every time you rose again, every time you forgave, every time you worshiped through pain, it added another line to your eternal testimony. I have kept it all, not as evidence against you, but as evidence for you. One day you will see that nothing was wasted, not the tears, not the waiting, not the smallest step of faith. Your story is written in the language of perseverance, sealed by my promise, and preserved in light. So take heart, my beloved, heaven has never stopped writing, and your faith is the ink. Do you feel it? That quiet stirring in the atmosphere, that sense that something unseen is shifting. The tide has begun to turn. You've endured the long night, the relentless storms, the waiting that felt endless. But now, the waters that once rose against you are receding. I have spoken over your situation, and creation has obeyed. The same winds that once brought chaos are now carrying change. This is the divine reversal, the moment when what worked against you begins to work for you. You didn't see the shift at first because it began deep beneath the surface, but now the waves of my promise are beginning to rise. The enemy thought he had you surrounded, but I have surrounded him instead. The tide is turning because faith has done its work. You didn't break in the pressure, you were refined by it. And now, the current is carrying you toward fulfillment. Every delay is giving way to divine acceleration. The doors that refuse to open will now swing wide with ease. What once drained you will now deliver you. You will not need to strive to stay afloat. I am lifting you with the tide of my favor. Do not fear the change. It is my doing. What was meant to drown you has become the very thing that will carry you forward. The turning of the tide is not a dream. It is happening now. Heaven has shifted the balance, and you are standing in the moment where struggle ends and harvest begins. Breathe, do you feel that? The air around you feels different because it is. What once was stagnant now stirs with life again. This is the breath of new beginnings. You thought the story was over, that all had been written and sealed by disappointment. But I have exhaled over your life once more. Every ending you mourned was only the pause before resurrection. I was not taking life from you. I was preparing to breathe life into what was buried. You've walked through seasons that stripped you bare, but now even your emptiness has become holy ground, fertile soil for rebirth. I am breathing on the dreams you laid down, the faith you thought had expired, the parts of you that once felt lifeless. My breath does not come to restore what was, it comes to create what has never been. You are not returning to the old, you are stepping into the new. The breath you feel stirring in your spirit is not imagination. It is confirmation. It is my whisper saying, "Live again." You will find yourself laughing without reason, feeling peace where there once was pain, standing in strength you didn't know remained. It's the sign that new beginnings have begun. Do not fear what is unfamiliar. New life never looks like the old. You've outgrown the graves that once held you. I have exhaled over your destiny, and nothing can suffocate what I've resurrected. The breath of new beginnings is upon you. Inhale it deeply, for every inhale now draws you closer to everything I promised. You didn't see it, but while the world overlooked you, I was shaping a crown upon your spirit. Every trial, every act of humility, every quiet surrender became part of its making. You thought your silence was wasted, but I was weaving gold into your character. The world crowns the visible, but I crown the faithful. The crown I've been forming for you wasn't molded in comfort but in crushing, the kind of crushing that extracts purity from pain. You wondered why you had to walk through such fire, why you had to bow so low, but only humility can carry the weight of heaven's glory. I was teaching you how to reign without arrogance, to lead without losing compassion, to carry influence without losing intimacy. What I build in secret lasts forever. The moments you thought were small, the forgiveness no one saw, the service no one thanked you for, the prayers you whispered while unseen, all of them added jewels to this crown. You wear it already, though you don't yet realize it. It's not made of gold or silver, but of endurance, wisdom, and grace. And when the time comes for others to see what I have been building in you, they will call it favor, but I will call it recognition. The crown formed in secret was never about status. It was about stewardship. You are now ready to carry what once would have crushed you. Lift your head, beloved. What I have built upon you in secret is about to be revealed in glory. You wept long enough. Do you hear it? The sound of laughter rising again, not forced, not shallow, but born from the depths of endurance. That is the joy I prepared for you long before your pain began. It was not delayed, it was preserved. I kept it hidden until your heart was strong enough to hold it. Joy this pure cannot live in hearts still bound by sorrow. It must grow from the soil of perseverance. Every tear you cried watered the roots of this coming joy. You thought your grief defined you, but it was only preparing room for gladness that would never fade. This joy does not erase what was lost. It redeems it. It does not ignore your pain. It transforms it into testimony. I have prepared joy that is not fragile, joy that endures the night and still sings at dawn. You will find it in unexpected places, in ordinary mornings, in quiet laughter, in peace that floods without warning. This joy will not depend on circumstances. It will flow from the certainty that you are deeply loved, completely known, and eternally safe in me. I am turning your mourning into melody, your heaviness into dance. You will not need to chase this joy. It is chasing you now. It has your name written upon it, sealed by my promise, and guarded by angels until this appointed time. So open your heart, for joy is not coming, it has arrived. The long night has ended, and heaven rejoices to see you smile again. There was a moment, sacred and unseen, when heaven could no longer stay silent about you. You didn't hear it, but I sent messengers to carry the news. They did it. They kept the faith. The same angels who once stood guard through your darkest nights now rose in flight to deliver your victory's announcement. They carried it through the corridors of heaven, their wings echoing with the sound of triumph. You thought your perseverance was quiet, hidden beneath pain, but it was louder than you could ever imagine. Angels do not celebrate perfection, they celebrate endurance. They rejoice not because you never stumbled, but because you rose again every time you fell. They marveled as you clung to hope when everything in you screamed to let go. They saw what humans could not, the battle in your soul, the courage in your silence, the worship that came from your wounds. When you prayed and felt nothing, they carried those prayers to me. When you sighed in exhaustion, they caught that sigh and brought it before my throne as incense. So now, they carry a new message, one of victory, one of fulfillment. The news of your faithfulness has become heaven's melody. Even now, angels move around you, preparing what is next, lining divine appointments, opening paths that once seemed sealed. You have no idea how many beings of light have whispered your name with reverence, not because of fame or power, but because of your faith. The news has been delivered. You endured. You believed. You overcame. You know what heaven feels when it looks upon you now. Not because you lived flawlessly, but because you chose to believe even when belief cost you everything. The hosts of heaven, those who have seen my power, my glory, my creation, stand amazed by what they've witnessed in you. For faith, real faith, is the rarest beauty in all existence. It shines brightest in the dark, and yours lit up the heavens. Every time you trusted me with trembling hands, every time you worshiped through tears, every time you clung to me in silence, heaven watched with wonder. You became a living reflection of my heart, a mirror of divine endurance. The angels who saw me form galaxies now look at you with reverence, because they see the image of their Creator burning within a fragile vessel and still choosing love. You've walked through storms that would have crushed many, and yet you emerged radiant, not because you escaped the fire, but because you let the fire refine you. You've made heaven see me differently, not as distant but as deeply personal. Through your faith, you've revealed to all creation what love looks like when it bleeds, what hope looks like when it's buried yet still rises. So when I say heaven stands in awe of you, understand, this awe is sacred. You have lived the kind of faith that moves eternity. You have shown the unseen world what it means to trust a God you cannot see. You have made heaven sing. The time has come for harvest, the season where the unseen labor of your soul blossoms before your eyes. You endured, and now the reward approaches like dawn breaking after a long night. I saw the days when you kept walking with empty hands, the nights you stayed faithful when you had every reason to give up. Endurance is not glamorous. It's slow, quiet, and often lonely. But it builds a strength that nothing can destroy. You didn't endure because it was easy. You endured because you chose to trust me more than you're paying. That trust has now become your inheritance. The things that once broke you will now bless you. The very areas where you faced loss will overflow with abundance, not always material, but spiritual, eternal, undeniable. You have proven trustworthy with little. Now I will trust you with more. The reward of endurance is not just what you receive, but who you've become. Unshakable, grounded, radiant. The waiting carved wisdom into your spirit. The pain deepened your compassion, and the silence refined your hearing. You can now discern joy in stillness, peace in storms, and purpose in mystery. The reward of endurance is that nothing controls you anymore. Not fear, not delay, not doubt. You've learned that I am enough, and because of that, I will add everything else in its proper time. The reward of endurance is not coming. It has already begun to unfold within you. You are walking proof that faith held long enough always leads to fulfillment. Do you feel it yet? The quiet shift where ashes turn to beauty, where pain gives way to purpose. That is the divine exchange in motion. You thought you had lost too much, that nothing good could ever come from the ruins. But I have been preparing this moment since the very first tear fell. I never let suffering go unanswered. Every wound became a place, where my power could enter, every loss an opening for abundance to flow. You brought me your brokenness, and I have been trading it piece by piece for glory. This is what I do. I take what was meant for evil and forge it into redemption. I take sorrow and spin it into joy. You offered me emptiness, and I filled it with myself. What you gave up in trust, I am now returning multiplied, purified, sanctified. The divine exchange is not a transaction. It is transformation. I am not simply giving back what you lost. I am making it new. What was bitter is becoming sweet. What was fractured is being remade into strength. I have exchanged your striving for stillness, your anxiety for assurance, your mourning for meaning. You won't have to chase restoration. It is chasing you. My exchange rate is extravagant, your weakness for my power, your despair for my promise, your ashes for my beauty. And when you finally stand in what I have prepared, you will see it clearly. The trade was never unfair, for you gave me what was temporary, and I gave you what is eternal. Heaven is not quite right now. The moment your endurance became faith fulfilled, a sound erupted through my kingdom, a song written just for you. You cannot hear it with your ears, but your spirit feels it even now, that rising sense of peace, that inexplicable joy that keeps catching you off guard. That is heaven celebrating. Angels are dancing, not because you won the world's applause, but because you completed what you began in faith. The journey was long, the road uneven, but you finished it with grace. Every time you refused to quit, another note was added to the song now being sung around my throne. The celebration isn't for perfection, it's for perseverance. It's not for those who never fell, it's for those who refused to stay down. You, my beloved, are the reason heaven's light shines brighter tonight. The spirit within you joins the chorus, rejoicing with sighs too deep for words. The very heavens that watched you struggle now celebrate your strength. The rhythm of this celebration will follow you. It will open doors, align hearts, and draw favor to your path. You have become heaven's melody, a living harmony of grace and endurance. The celebration is not the end. It is the sound of new beginnings, the announcement that the time of mourning has passed. So walk forward with your head high. The Son of Heaven goes before you. You are no longer a survivor. You are the sound of victory made flesh. Everything the enemy tried to take, I am restoring, and not in fragments but in fullness. You thought some things were gone forever, buried under time, betrayal, or regret, but nothing is beyond my reach. I specialize in restoration that writes stories. I don't just return what was stolen, I return it renewed. I am bringing back laughter where tears once lived, rebuilding confidence where fear once ruled, reviving dreams that seemed dead beyond repair. I have been collecting every piece of what was lost to you, waiting for the moment your heart could hold it again without pain. That moment has come. The restoration I bring is not repetition, it's resurrection. What comes back will not look like what left, because I am not restoring you to your past, I am restoring you into your purpose. Relationships once broken will be reborn with truth. Opportunities once missed will reappear in new form. Time you thought was wasted will now work for you, redeeming what delay tried to destroy. The years the locusts devoured will bloom again, richer than before. You will walk into rooms where loss once lived and feel the weight of renewal resting there. The thief who tried to steal your peace will have to watch as I crown you with abundance. Restoration is my signature. Every story I touch ends in redemption. And yours, my beloved, is now being rewritten with the ink of renewal. You have reached the season where what was once taken will return pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing with glory. Listen closely. Can you hear it? That resounding declaration moving through eternity. echoing across realms seen and unseen. You finally did it. It is not a whisper of pity, but a proclamation of triumph. Heaven's voice, my voice, has spoken it, not as a statement of perfection, but of completion. You endure what tried to end you. You kept faith alive when it would have been easier to surrender. When I say, you finally did it, I'm not referring to a single moment. I'm acknowledging every moment that led here, the countless choices to rise, to believe, to hope again. You did not cross a finish line. You crossed into fulfillment. The battle that once defined you is now beneath you, for you have overcome not by strength, but by surrender. Heaven's declaration carries authority. It shifts the atmosphere around you, breaks chains that have lingered, and calls forth the next chapter of your story. When heaven speaks, creation responds. The ground you walk now recognizes victory. Even the winds carry your testimony. What once resisted you will now work with you, because heaven has placed its seal upon your life. When I say you finally did it, it means your season of endurance has turned into a season of establishment. You have been approved, affirmed, and anointed for what comes next. The voice that formed galaxies has spoken over you, and nothing can unwrite that decree. It is finished, not in loss but in victory. Heaven has declared it, and so it shall be. You didn't see it happening, but my glory was growing within you all along. Every trial, every heartbreak, every test became the soil where my presence took root. You looked in the mirror and saw weakness, but heaven saw transformation. Glory is not the absence of scars. It is the light that shines through them. You carry that light now. It emanates from the places you once tried to hide. The moments you thought disqualified you have become the very evidence of my hand upon your life. The glory I have placed in you is not for display. It's for illumination. Wherever you go, it reveals me. The way you forgive reveals me. The way you love after loss reveals me. The way you hope again, even after disappointment, reveals me. This is what glory looks like. It's divinity wrapped in humanity, eternity shining through the cracks of a redeemed heart. You have become a living testimony that grace is greater than pain. And this glory will not fade. It will only deepen as you continue to walk with me. People will sense something different about you. They will feel peace where chaos once ruled, light where darkness once lingered. That is not coincidence. That is my reflection. You have become the evidence that suffering was never wasted. The world will see what heaven already knows. You are not just a survivor. You are a carrier of glory. Every scar is now sacred, every wound now radiant, because through you, the world will glimpse what it means to be restored by the hand of God. This is that moment, the one your soul has longed for since the beginning of your journey. I place my hand upon you now, and I whisper the words your heart has ached to hear. Well done, my child. You have walked through valleys that few would have survived. You have chosen faith when fear screamed louder. You have loved when you had every reason to close your heart. And through it all, you never stopped seeking me. That is what moves heaven. Not perfection, but persistence. The divine approval I give you now is not earned. It is given freely because you stayed true to love. You may not feel extraordinary, but I see the truth. You have become what I envisioned when I first dreamed you into existence. You carry wisdom carved by pain, humility born of surrender, compassion shaped by brokenness. I approve of who you are, not just what you've done. I delight in the way your heart leans toward goodness even after betrayal. I rejoice in the way you speak hope into hopelessness. My approval is not a stamp of conclusion. It's a blessing for the journey ahead. You are free now to walk in the fullness of your identity without striving, without shame. Let my words settle deeply within you. You are mine, and I am proud of you. Let that truth silence every voice of accusation, every whisper of doubt. This is your moment of divine approval, where heaven's affirmation rests upon you like sunlight, and nothing can take it away. Do you feel it? The stillness wrapping itself around you, the quiet calm that no chaos can steal. That is not coincidence. That is peace, heaven sent and divinely anchored within you. It's not the shallow kind that depends on everything going right. It's the deep, sacred kind that remains even when everything seems wrong. You spent so many seasons fighting for peace, trying to earn it through understanding, through control, through closure. But true peace was never something you had to chase. It was something I was waiting to give. This peace comes not from the absence of storms, but from my presence within them. It doesn't silence the wind. It stills your heart so that the wind loses its power over you. I saw the wars that raged in your mind, the anxiety that kept you awake, the moments when your spirit trembled under the weight of the unknown. I watched as you tried to hold it all together, thinking peace would come once you fixed everything. But peace, my beloved, doesn't wait for perfection. It flows from trust. And because you've learned to trust me even when you didn't understand, heaven has released this gift over you now. The same peace that steadied the waves when I spoke, "Be still," is now the peace that surrounds you. It will follow you into every room, guard your thoughts, and shield your emotions. You will walk into confusion and carry clarity. You will stand in chaos and radiate calm. That is what heaven's peace does. It transforms you into a sanctuary. And from now on, you won't have to search for peace, because peace has found you. You have reached the threshold of fulfillment, the moment when destiny begins to reveal what it has been building in silence. You've waited, wondered, and sometimes doubted if the promises I spoke over you were still alive. But destiny never dies, it matures. Like a seed hidden underground, it grows quietly until the season aligns with its purpose. That alignment has come. You are stepping into what was once only whispered in your prayers. Everything that confused you is beginning to make sense. Every delay, every detour, every heartbreak was a thread in a tapestry you couldn't yet see. I have been weaving purpose through pain, direction through disappointment, and meaning through mystery. Now the pattern begins to emerge. You'll recognize my fingerprints on everything. The people who entered your life at the right moment, the closed doors that protected you, the opportunities that waited until you were ready. Destiny is not a sudden arrival. It is a gradual unveiling, and the unveiling has begun. You are not behind schedule. You are right on time. Do not be afraid of this unfolding. It may feel unfamiliar, but it is sacred. What once felt random will now feel orchestrated. What once felt wasted will now reveal wisdom. You will see how every moment was leading here, to this place, this season, this calling. Destiny is not just about where you are going. It is about who you have become along the way. You have been refined to carry the weight of purpose. And now, my beloved, it is time to live it. Look at how far you've come. The story that once began with pain now ends with promise. It is written, not in ink but in light, etched across eternity itself. You finally did it. Heaven saw everything. The tears, the prayers, the sacrifices, the moments when no one believed in you but me. I saw it all, and I've written every moment of your endurance into the eternal record. Your life is now a testament that faith works, that love wins, that hope never fails. When the hosts of heaven read your story, they will not see the failures or the fears. They will see the unwavering flame of faith that refused to go out. You may have stumbled, but every stumble became a stepping stone toward redemption. The victory I've given you is not temporary. It is eternal. It exists beyond time, beyond circumstance, beyond anything this world can measure. The record of your victory will continue to speak long after your breath leaves the earth, echoing through generations, declaring that grace is real, that restoration is possible, that God keeps His word. You are not a forgotten name in a crowd of believers. You are a living testimony written into the scrolls of eternity. The angels know your story. Heaven sings your victory. And I, the author of it all, look at you and say with joy overflowing, "It is finished, and it is beautiful. You finally did it, my child." Heaven saw everything, and heaven will remember forever. Amen.